Some images were never meant to be captured. There are places forgotten by time where the air is heavy and smiles last longer than they should. For Darren Scott, it all began with a simple camera click. But when you stare too deeply into the shadows, they stare back. And once he smiles at you, it means you already belong to him. This is the story of a glance, a whisper, and a smile that never fades. Chapter 1. The First Glimpse. Darren Scott had made a name for himself in the world of photography, capturing forgotten beauty in urban decay. Abandoned hospitals, decrepit mansions, and forgotten alleyways were his playground. But none of his previous explorations unsettled him as much as Fairbrook Manor. It had been a grand estate in the late 1800s, now reduced to a skeleton of its former self. Peeling wallpaper, shattered chandeliers, and dust-covered mirrors. The air smelled of rotting wood and something off. Still, it was perfect for his latest photo series. He snapped pictures obsessively, adjusting for light and composition. It wasn't until he reviewed the shots later that night that he noticed something strange. In the far corner of one photo, standing just beyond the shadows of a grand staircase, was a figure. The shape was indistinct, but there was one thing Darren was certain of: it had a grinning face. Chapter 2. The Unwelcome Visitor. Darren rationalized it at first. Maybe it was a trick of the light, an odd reflection. But as he clicked through his shots, the figure was in every single one. And worse, it was getting closer. In the first few photos, it lingered in the background. But in the final image, it stood near the edge of a doorway. The grin on its pale face stretched too wide, its teeth too numerous. Darren's chest tightened. He shut his laptop, heart hammering against his ribs. "Just my imagination," he muttered. But as he turned off his lights and got into bed, he couldn't shake the sensation that someone was watching him. Chapter 3. The Teeth Collector. The next morning, Darren's unease hadn't faded. His dentist appointment was a welcome distraction. He had been suffering from an ache in his molar, and Dr. Wilkes had been his go-to for years. As he sat in the reclining chair, the fluorescent light above flickered. Dr. Wilkes peered into his mouth, her gloved fingers gently probing his gums. "You've been grinding your teeth a lot, Darren," she murmured. "Bad dreams?" He blinked. "How'd you?" She didn't answer, just tilted her head slightly, her face unreadable. And then she whispered something that made his blood run cold. "I want yours next." Darren sat up with a jolt, heart hammering. "What did you just say?" Dr. Wilkes gave him a puzzled look. "I didn't say anything." Darren's throat tightened. Had he imagined it? His mind was playing tricks on him. Had to be. But as he left the office, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the polished metal tray. His own mouth was grinning, and he wasn't. Chapter 4. Laughing in the Walls. That night, sleep was impossible. Darren tossed and turned, his mind replaying the images from Fairbrook Manor, the whisper in the dentist's office. He was on edge, jumping at every creak in his apartment. Then he heard it. A giggle. It was faint, almost childlike, coming from somewhere inside the walls. Darren held his breath, his fingers gripping the sheets. The laughter continued, soft and teasing, as if something was watching and amused by his fear. His body went cold. He leapt out of bed, flicking on every light in the apartment. But the laughter stopped instantly. He approached the nearest wall, pressing his ear against the drywall. Silence. He let out a shuddering breath. Maybe it was a neighbor's television. Maybe. Then something knocked back. Darren stumbled backward, his pulse roaring in his ears. A whisper slipped through the wall, so close it felt like hot breath against his skin. "Smile, Darren." Chapter 5. The Face in the Mirror. Darren bolted to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. He gripped the sink, staring at his reflection in the mirror. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot. Then his reflection smiled. His own lips curled into a slow, unnatural grin. But he hadn't moved. Darren's breath hitched. His hands trembled, sweat pooling at the back of his neck. His reflection was watching him. And then, it blinked. Darren staggered backward, slamming against the tiled wall. The figure in the mirror tilted its head as if studying him. And then it whispered, "Almost ready." The lights flickered violently and Darren lunged for the door, yanking it open. But as he turned, something grabbed his wrist. His own reflection's hand was wrapped around his wrist, its grip ice cold. He screamed. Chapter 6. The Grin That Never Fades. Darren didn't sleep. He sat in his living room with every light on, clutching a baseball bat. He needed answers. He pulled up the photos from Fairbrook Manor, zooming in on the figure. Each image was the same. It always had that hideous grin and it was always getting closer. And then he reached the last image. His stomach plummeted. The figure wasn't in the background anymore. It wasn't near the doorway. It was standing directly behind him. Darren's breath stilled. He turned his head slowly, his muscles tight with terror. His apartment was empty. But when he looked back at the laptop screen, the figure had moved again. It was no longer in the picture. And then he felt it. Cold breath against his neck. Chapter 7. The Last Smile You'll See. Darren didn't turn around. He couldn't. His body was frozen, paralyzed with dread. His laptop screen flickered. The reflection in the black screen of the monitor showed a shape behind him. A grinning face. Tears burned at Darren's eyes. He forced himself to move, spinning around, swinging the baseball bat wildly. Nothing. Just empty air. And yet, the presence remained. A whisper slithered into his ear. "Now you're ready." His muscles locked. His body went rigid. His mouth stretched into a wide, painful grin. His jaw cracked, his lips splitting as his skin strained. He couldn't stop it. His fingers twitched, his body no longer his own. In the mirror across the room he saw himself grinning. But it wasn't really him anymore. Darren's reflection tilted its head, that hideous smile never fading. And then, his reflection stepped out. Darren tried to scream. But all that escaped was a laugh. The last sound he ever made. And the last thing he ever saw was his own grin.